So what is a label in a Cosmos DB graph database, and how should I use it when it comes to designing my database? Let me explain. Watch this 5-minute video to get the answer. So let's talk about the label. What is a label? Well, the label is an internal property in Cosmos DB, and you're going to find it on every vertex and every edge. It's internal, just like ID. Every document in the Cosmos DB has an ID and a label. So how can we use this to design our graph database? When a vertex, use labels to define an entity type. In an edge, use labels to define the type of relationship between two vertices. So on the top right, you see a quick view of Cosmos DB, and notice that the properties of the vertex have an ID and a label. Here the label is person. Notice also that this vertex already has relationships to other vertices via edges. And if you look at sources, you can see that for every source, the edge has a label. What does the label contain? Well, it's the type of relationship. So one person knows another person, knows another person, knows another person. So you see that the edge, the label on the edge, is used to define the type of relationship. So the question becomes, how would you categorize your data as a GraphDB designer? What do you say we go through 3 exercises so we can build 3 different databases or GraphDBs, and all we're going to do is we're going to define the label on the different objects so we can see by repetition how we would use the label or how we would define the value of the label. So here's some design guidance. Ask yourself, what am I storing? How would I categorize this data? How would I normally filter my data? How would I group it? What groups would I usually be interested in? What would be my starting point for a query? What role does it play? So let's go through the first one. We're going to create a graph database. We'll just call it company graph database. Obviously, we're going to store company data. Well, why not start with a label called company, right? You might have 10 or 50 or 100 companies, but each document, the label in it would be company. So therefore, you're defining the type of data that's in that document. You might have an employee. There might be a manager, a location, a conference room, travel expenses, hotel. Do you see? So these would be your types of labels. Now keep in mind, this is just the design. These are not that you're only going to have one hotel or one travel expenses. Now you can have one hotel and another one and another one and another one, so forth. Same, you're going to have multiple locations, managers. But the point here is that each piece of data is labeled so you can define what kind of entity it is. Then you'll put your properties onto it, and that's what makes them individually different. Want to do another one? Let's do a product GraphDB. So in a product GraphDB, why don't we start off with a product type, a category, an order, a line item. Orders have line items, right? And a customer. You see how I'm naming my document types? Product, category, customer, order, line item. Those would be the labels for all these pieces of data that you'll have in your database. Let's do one more. An airline GraphDB. Well, we're going to have an airline, an airport, country, right? Airports are in different countries. Aircraft, a captain. You're going to have captains that pilot the aircraft. You're going to have multiple flights. You're going to record data about the takeoff. Flights have a destination. You're going to have a runway. Notice how we're labeling our data. Try to follow that pattern. Use labels to define the type of objects you're storing. Got it? So hopefully this video helped you get a good understanding. If you liked it, I provided a coupon for you so you can check out my course, Learn Cosmos DB Gremlin API by building a .NET Core REST API.